revealed how an incredible gesture from a patient's father transformed a nurse's life forever. Sarah moved through the crowded halls of Mercy Hospital like a seasoned captain navigating stormy seas. The energy buzzed in the air, punctuated by the beeping of machines and the murmurs of staff attending to patients. At 32, she had become a symbol of the American dream. She was a nurse, a hard worker, a single mom raising her 6-year-old son Timmy on a shoestring budget. But today, as she donned her scrubs, a knot tightened in her stomach. The strain of her life was heavy, each shift a reminder of the sacrifices she made for her small family. With every patient she cared for, Sarah saw a part of herself. She knelt beside an elderly woman, holding her hand and reassuring her, her heart swelling with empathy and purpose. The hospital was full of stories, and she loved playing her part in the narratives of resilience and care. Yet a shadow loomed over her today. She'd been assigned to Jack, a young boy suffering with a serious illness, the son of Tom, a wealthy businessman known for his iron-fisted grip on fortune and the town. Tom entered the room, all sharp suits and cold eyes, lost in a whirlwind of his own worries. Sarah felt the walls close in. Despite the gulf between their worlds, she located Jack's gaze, filled with innocence and trust. She smiled genuinely, seeing past the beside relics of affluence. As she cared for Jack, they bonded over shared laughter, each chuckle a stitch bridging their disparities. She coaxed him into painting pictures and shared stories of dinosaurs on the walls, just as she'd done with her own son, filling the sterile room with brightness. But then things took a turn. Jack's treatment struggled against the capricious nature of illness, and Sarah felt the mounting pressure of impending failure. A communication snag had occurred, the kind that turned the anguish of parents sharper, their tempers flaring. That familiar knot tightened again in her chest. The weight of potential job loss loomed like an anvil. The reality of living paycheck to paycheck hit her hard. How could she provide for Timmy if she lost this job? But hope stirred in unexpected places. Tom, watching the scene unfold, began to see more than just a nurse. He saw a woman fighting tirelessly for his son, sacrificing her time, her emotional toll evident in her exhausted eyes. It ignited something within him, a flicker of empathy for the struggles Sarah faced. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Chaos erupted in the emergency ward that day, each moment guiding Sarah to her breaking point. In a heartbeat, Tom confronted the truth. The division between him and Sarah mirrored a larger fracture in society. It was an awakening. He had witnessed the unrelenting courage of someone simply trying to earn a living for their child. Empowered by this realization, he hovered on the edge of a choice that could reshape both their lives. As the clock ticked down, Sarah braced for inevitable consequences. In that pregnant pause, tension thickened the air. Would Tom act, pulling both of their lives and futures into the light, or would he retreat back into the shadows of his privilege? The hospital hummed around them, the weight of unspoken words hanging heavily. Change was on the horizon, but which direction would it flow? The emergency ward buzzed with activity, the crisis unfolding like an intricate tapestry of tension and urgency. Sarah felt her heart race, each beat a reminder of the stakes involved. She caught a glimpse of Tom, who stood rigid in the doorway, his expression flickering between anger and concern. The sight of him, once a distant figure wrapped in wealth and power, now felt strikingly vulnerable. "What's going on?" Tom's voice broke through the chaos, sharp like glass. "We're trying to stabilize Jack, but there's been a delay in communication about his treatment plan," Sarah replied, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. She managed to maintain eye contact, and for a moment, she saw a flicker of understanding pass over Tom's face. "You're doing everything you can," he said softer now. "I know that." That acknowledgement was like a balm to Sarah's churning stomach. It wasn't about the life of just one boy, she realized. It was about a whole system that failed so many. Tom's presence shifted something within her, igniting a connection that felt almost transcendent. It was more than just nurse and parent, it was humanity bridging a chasm of privilege and struggle. With each passing minute, Tom seemed to wrestle with a decision heavy enough to crush him. She could see him processing the gravity of his son's circumstances, the fragility of time ticking away. As he witnessed the frantic efforts of the nurses, the dedication in their hands, she sensed something stirring in him. It was as if he was finally waking from a long sleep, and facing the truth for the first time. And then he took a step forward, the fabric of his tailored suit brushing against the sterile walls. "What can I do to help?" he asked, a plea infused with sincerity. "Tell me what you need." The question echoed through Sarah's mind, bouncing against years of independence and responsibility. She had always been the one to solve problems, to provide, to carry burdens alone. Now, she felt the weight of desperation lifting slightly. "We need to adjust Jack's medication dosage, and I'll require your support to expedite the authorization process," she replied, her voice firm yet somehow softer too. Tom nodded, determination lighting his features. He reached for his phone, typing quickly. "I'll get on it now." In that moment, an alliance was forged not just between a nurse and a businessman, but between two lives propelled by love and fear. They were caught in the undertow of circumstance, battling against the tide together. As they worked side by side, the buzz of the ward faded into background noise. For Sarah, it was a new kind of strength, drawn from the liquid courage of shared purpose. Meanwhile, Tom began making calls, breaking barriers erected by wealth and status. It was more than a moment of connection, it was a revolution in compassion, and Sarah felt the spark of hope begin to flicker through the shadows of her uncertainty. But as Jack's condition took unexpected twists, the weight of their collaboration urged forward new challenges. Would their combined efforts be enough to save him? Would the shadows of their different worlds overshadow this fragile truce? Answers awaited in the flickering lights of the hospital, where each moment felt like both a blessing and a reminder of the fragility of life. Sarah could only hold her breath, waiting for the next wrinkle in their journey. Would they both emerge transformed, or would this collective fight test the very essence of who they were? As hope hung in the balance, a new question lingered in the air. How far would Tom be willing to go to ensure the life of his son and maybe, just maybe, help save Sarah too? The sound of hurried footsteps echoed through the hall, each step like a countdown in the chaotic dance of healthcare. Sarah felt adrenaline spike as she focused on the thin line between hope and despair that hung over them all. The weight of the pending treatment plan loomed larger with each passing moment. Tom, still glued to his phone, paced like a caged animal, his brow furrowed with deep worry. His calls were blunt, professional, oscillating between urgency and frustration. "No, we can't wait any longer. It's Jack, my son. He needs this now." "Yes, push it through." Sarah, catching glimpses of his mounting anxiety, found herself rooting for him. Just then, a nurse rushed past them, a medical chart held tightly against her chest. An ashen-faced doctor followed, glancing at the monitor readings and muttering under his breath. The energy in the ward was palpable, and every second felt stretched thin. "Sarah!" Tom's voice pulled her back. "They're about to administer the new dosage. They just called in the specialists." At that moment, it hit Sarah how intertwined their lives had become. The fate of Tom's son was inexplicably linked to her role in this suffering. A million questions erupted in her mind. Would they make it in time? Could this turn the tide for Jack? She scrolled through her own hesitations, feeling hope flicker even as shadows loomed. Let us not waste time. "I'll follow through with the doctor," she said, swallowing hard. Confidence surged despite the storm around them. Tom nodded, the tension easing from his shoulders as he gestured for her to lead the way. Together, they navigated back to the treatment room, where machines beeped like nervous hearts, and the fluorescent lights reflected a stark reality. A sense of urgency crackled in the air, rising like steam. As they reached the door, a nurse stepped out hurriedly, looking pale. "We are trying our best," but she hesitated, glancing at Tom. "We're losing him. We need that medication fast." "Then let us make it happen." Tom's voice rumbled with a fierce edge. I'll talk to the chief of medicine. If it helps save Jack, I'll throw everything I have into making the wheels turn. Sarah could hardly believe what she was hearing. In that moment, something substantial shifted between them. This wasn't mere cooperation. This was a father desperate to save his child, at any cost. I'm with you, she affirmed, feeling limbs shake with an unfamiliar blend of fear and solidarity. The shared urgency pulsed between them, an unspoken promise. Watching Tom transform, Sarah felt a warmth swell in her heart. The man who once seemed so far removed from her world was becoming a part of her fight. Perhaps together they could break down the barriers, reshape their realities. But as they turned toward the commotion, an uneasy silence fell. The doctor's head appeared around the corner, his face heavy with foreboding. We need to talk now. Tom's chest tightened as he prepared for news that might change everything. Sarah held her breath, the unbearable weight of the moment closing around her. Would they have the strength to face whatever lay ahead? Or would this terrifying twist of fate crush their hard-earned alliance? And as the look in the doctor's eyes deepened, a new question hung in the air. How much farther could Tom push himself to save his son, and would Sarah dare to join him in fighting for a life beyond their own? Tom stood frozen. The doctor's expression was a knife through the tension, sharp and cutting. What is it? He demanded, his voice raw with desperation. Sarah could sense the frayed edges of a drowning hope, and she stepped slightly forward, an instinctive effort to shield him, even if just from the truth. It's Jack's condition. It's deteriorating faster than we anticipated. We need to decide on an aggressive intervention, and we need your consent immediately. Words trembled in the air, thick like fog. Sarah watched Tom's face morph under the pressure, his features shifting from worry to steely resolve. Whatever it takes, he said, voice firm like granite. Just tell me what I have to do. As the doctor relayed the details, Sarah's mind spun with the gravity of the situation. Outside, life continued without them, a couple laughing in the hall, a delivery cart rattling by. Here, everything was taut with urgency, every second stretched achingly. A moment passed where the world felt like it stopped, just for them. Are you ready? The doctor asked, eyeing Tom closely. We'll need something from you. Sign here to expedite the treatment. Tom grabbed the pen, his hand shaking slightly. Yes. I'm ready, he said, his eyes burning with a ferocity that surprised even Sarah. She couldn't help but feel a swell of admiration for him, though it was laced with fear. Once the papers were signed and submitted, an electric charge ignited in the room, a brief flash of hope igniting the shadows. Good. We'll move as soon as possible. The doctor turned away, and the air hung heavy with the mix of anxiety and anticipation. But Sarah couldn't shake the doubt that simmered just below the surface. Can we really save him? She found herself whispering, needing to articulate the fear that clenched at her heart. Of course, we will, Tom shot back. We have to. His gaze held a fierce commitment that made Sarah want to believe in miracles, even as the rough edges of her realism chipped away at her faith. As they waited, anxiety twisted knots in Sarah's stomach. You've been amazingly strong, Tom, she said softly, feeling the weight of the moment pressing against her chest. I don't know if I could handle this if it were my child. He looked over at her, his tired eyes softening. We're all stronger than we realize when we're fighting for what matters. You're here with me. That means something. Her breath hitched as she processed his words, a sudden realization stark and bright. They were fighting for Jack, but this was also a battle for understanding, for connection in the midst of chaos. The minutes crawled by until the doctor reappeared, this time flanked by specialists like a brigade ready to wage war. There was a shift in the atmosphere, a collective inhale before the plunge. We're ready, he announced, and the room buzzed with a strange combination of fear and determination. Tom directed a steady look at Sarah, grounding in that moment shared silence. You'll be there with us, right? To see him through this? Always, she promised, and something in her own voice surprised her. A fierce determination flickered to life, igniting in the ashes of fear. As the team moved into action, Sarah felt her heart race, caught in the whirlwind of hope swirling around them. They had a chance against the tide that threatened to pull them under. But as they prepared to head into the treatment room, a sudden thought struck her. When this was over, would they feel whole again? Or would this experience shift them indefinitely? The tension hung thick, a stark reminder that the outcome was never guaranteed. With every step forward into the unknown, they were bound together in this fight, two lives intertwined by a single thread of hope. How could they emerge on the other side transformed and healed? Or forever changed by the weight of their battle against darkness? The treatment room hummed with sterile intensity. Tom and Sarah followed the medical team, heartbeats syncing with the rhythm of urgency around them. Each step felt heavier, as if the weight of their shared fear and hope clung to their legs, anchoring them to the ground. Tom's hand tightened around Sarah's, the warmth a comforting reminder they were in this together. Inside, the bright lights made the space feel almost surreal, the quiet efficient movements of the nurses and doctors like a well-rehearsed choreography. Jack lay on the bed, small and vulnerable, surrounded by machines that beeped softly, monitoring his every breath. The sight made Tom's chest ache, a thousand unasked questions swirling in his mind. "Come on, buddy," he whispered, leaning closer. "Fight for us." He could barely recognize the strength in his own voice. In this moment, Tom was more than just a parent, he was a warrior, determined to shield his son from whatever darkness loomed. Sarah watched him, admiration mixing with her anxiety. She felt her heart tug as Tom's face crumpled for a brief moment, fear brimming in his eyes. Yet he blinked away the tears threatening to spill, and straightened his back. That unwavering resolve stirred something deep within her. The team began preparing Jack for the procedure, efficient hands working rapidly, yet somehow with a grace that reassured them. Sarah stood a little back, giving them space but always keeping an eye on Tom, who was still holding Jack's hand, his thumb rubbing soft circles into the tiny fingers. Minutes felt like hours. Her palms began to sweat as she peered at the myriad of screens. Each beep set her nerves on fire. Then, noticing a nurse approaching her, she could sense a connection that transcended the chaos. "I know this is hard," the nurse said gently, her voice soothing yet firm. "We're doing everything we can. He is strong. Trust in that." Then the nurse smiled, a warm gesture that felt like sunlight breaking through the clouds. Something about that smile stirred a flicker of hope. Sarah nodded, feeling her breath come a bit easier. This world of medicine and treatment was foreign, but the humanity shining through the nurse's eyes reminded her they were not alone. Moments later, the doctor stepped forward and began explaining the intricacies of the treatment, words washing over Sarah like distant thunder. She could hear Tom asking questions, each one tinged with a father's desperation to protect. She could see how the doctors responded, not fazed by the intensity of his tone, but engaged, sharing vital information like soldiers preparing for battle. As they prepped Jack, Sarah's thoughts flitted like moths around a flame. Would Tom and she come out of this stronger, or would they be cracked and jagged, held together by memories of this day? Then, the unexpected happened. The way Tom suddenly turned his head toward her, catching her gaze, seemed charged with a silent plea. "He needs us, Sarah. We can't break." It was the raw honesty in his voice that struck her. It bound her heart to his, an invisible tether of purpose sparked in the face of darkness. "Never," she promised, her voice steady, almost fierce. As the medical team moved with practiced efficiency, Tom nodded in gratitude toward the nurse who had offered her words of support. In that simple exchange, a bond was formed, a moment that shifted Sarah's perspective. Through this process, they weren't just fighting for Jack. They were becoming part of something larger than themselves, something that transcended fear, despair, and doubt. And it was then, amidst the flurry of activity, that Sarah sensed an underlying truth. Their story wasn't merely about a fight against illness. It was about resilience, love, and the profound connections formed in the crucible of crisis. But as the treatment began, uncertainty loomed, heavier than before. Would this bond hold them together through the aftermath? Or would the echoes of this moment send them spiraling into lingering fear? The silence that followed felt deafening, a deep breath held like a prayer. With everything on the line, could they truly trust the road ahead? The room pulsed with a mixture of hope and dread, each beep of the machines a reminder of the reality they faced. Tom kept focused on Jack, his son's fragile body now fully enveloped in the clinical world of wires and screens. His heart raced. Beside him, Sarah's breaths were shallow, her thoughts a chaotic storm. But in the eye of that storm was a remarkable calmness that she couldn't quite explain. She glanced sideways at Tom, seeing the determination on his face. That fierce gaze, a blend of love and fight, was all she needed to fuel her own quiet resolve. "We're here together," she told herself. Time seemed to stretch, every second laden with weighty anticipation. The doctor spoke, his voice steady and clear, but Sarah barely absorbed the information. Instead, she was lost in the rhythm of her own thoughts, cycling through fears of what could happen next and grasping onto strands of optimism, however thin. "Jack is a strong boy," the doctor concluded, looking directly into Tom's eyes. "We're ready to start the procedure. I promise we will take good care of him." Tom nodded, still clutching his son's hand as they each found strength in one another, a lifeline in a turbulent sea. Sarah felt her own fingers interlace with Tom's as she silently vowed to stay present, to ground them both through whatever lay ahead. As the medical team rolled Jack into the operating room, Sarah's stomach nodded. The same nurse who had spoken to her earlier caught her eye, her gaze full of compassion. "You're doing great," she mouthed before turning to follow the team. That small gesture made Sarah's heart swell. It was a reminder that they weren't alone in this fight. "Do you think he knows we're here?" Tom's voice broke the silence, shaking slightly, as they moved farther back. "I hope so," she replied softly. "I want him to feel how much we love him." Her own voice wavered, almost breaking under the weight of her emotion. Just then, the realization washed over her. We can't just hope for him to feel our love. We need to show it every step of the way. Tom's eyes brightened, and in that moment, they shared a connection deeper than words. They had to be the constant he could cling to. Jack had to fight, but they could fight right alongside him, embodying love and strength, putting every ounce of effort into being the fortress that their son needed. Hours ticked by, each filled with whispered prayers and fragile hopes. The waiting area became a whirlwind of anxious parents glancing at their phones, pacing, leaning wearily on each other. But amidst this, Sarah found herself lifting her gaze, studying the people around her, feeling a strange kinship forming. Parents looked at one another, exchanging fleeting glances filled with unspoken understanding. They were all in battle, and they were all fighting for their children. Then suddenly, the waiting room's stillness shattered like glass when a commotion erupted. A father receiving news about his child, his face twisting into an expression of relief and joy. The energy shifted in the room, and Sarah felt something important resonate in her chest. Could there really be hope after this? As if reading her mind, Tom took a deep breath. Whatever happens next, we'll face it together. Just then, the doors to the operating room opened, revealing the doctor stepping out. A wave of whispers swept through the room as every eye turned towards him, hearts pounding in unison. Then the doctor's eyes met theirs, the weight of his expression tightening the air in the room. "It's time we talk." As he took a step forward, the world around them faded, replaced with the looming uncertainty of what he was about to say. The pause stretched out impossibly long, filled with questions that danced just out of reach. In that moment, Sarah felt her heart drop. Were they about to hear the news they had been fearing all along? The doctor hesitated, preparing to articulate words that could shatter their fragile world or offer a glimmer of hope. Tom's grip tightened on Sarah's hand, a silent plea for strength. Every parent in the waiting room was holding their breath. There were complications during the surgery. The doctor's voice was steady, yet there was a quaver beneath it that sent ripples of fear through the room. A mother across the aisle clenched her jacket, her eyes wide with dread. Tom felt his stomach twist. "What does that mean?" The question flew out before he could rein it in, filled with raw urgency. "They managed to stabilize him, but Jack is still in critical condition. He's going to need more time in recovery," the doctor explained, easing into the words. A collective sigh slipped through the waiting area like a gust of wind, mixed with worry and relief. Sarah blinked, willfully pushing back tears. They still had him. He was alive, but the more time felt like an eternity wrapped in uncertainty. "Can we see him?" Sarah found her voice shaky yet determined. She needed to feel Jack again, to let him know he wasn't alone. The doctor nodded. You can. He'll be in the recovery room soon. Just give us a little while to ensure everything is stabilized first. The rush of hope surged again, washing over them. Jack was still fighting, still holding on. Tom met Sarah's eyes, a shared understanding pulsing between them. We can do this, he whispered. As they moved toward the recovery room, Sarah caught snippets of conversations around them. A nurse was comforting a couple down the hall, telling them their son was doing better. Another dad hugged his partner tightly, tears spilling down his cheeks as they heard good news about their daughter. Hope danced tentatively in every corner of the waiting area. When they finally reached Jack's room, Tom pushed open the door carefully, revealing a dim space where their son lay nestled beneath colorful blankets, surrounded by monitors gently beeping. Sarah's heart constricted at the sight, so small and fragile yet so full of life. Hey, buddy, Tom whispered, leaning over the bed. It's us. We're here. His voice steadied them both, filled with reassurance that they had infused Jack with all their love and strength. Sarah held back her tears, wanting to show Jack that he was safe. She reached out, brushing her fingertips against his forehead. We love you, Jack. You're our brave boy. A weight settled in her chest as she glanced at the machines. The noise was relentless but somehow comforting. Each beat marked a heartbeat, a reminder that they were still on the right path. Time became something abstract, the minutes stretching and condensing. They took turns whispering stories and singing softly, even as fatigue began to tug at their eyelids. Sarah could see the flicker of life beneath Jack's closed eyelids. Would he fight through this? Could he feel their presence? Then, after what felt like an eternity, the door swung open again. A nurse stepped in, a bright smile breaking through the seriousness of the moment. You're doing great, she said, a freshness that cut through the air. Can I check his vitals? Of course, Tom replied, stepping back slightly, but not too far. Their son was still the center of their world. As the nurse moved around the bed, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this journey ahead. She caught the nurse's eye. There was a depth behind that smile, something unspoken that hinted at shared experiences. It sparked a thought in Sarah. If this nurse was here to comfort them, who had comforted her in her own battles? Thank you for everything, Sarah murmured, feeling the weight of camaraderie blooming between them. As the nurse finished her checks, she nodded with an understanding that ignited an idea in Sarah. There's a support network in this hospital, for parents and families, she said. I think you should join them. It really helps. Sarah's heart quickened. Could leaning on others, sharing stories, help them navigate this uncharted territory? It was a small seed of hope, but then, as the nurse turned to leave, Sarah's curiosity flared. What brought you here? The nurse paused, her expression deepening. I had my own family journey here. She glanced toward Jack, then met Sarah's eyes. Sometimes the hardest battles lead to a new purpose. Before Sarah could ask more, the nurse slipped out of the room, leaving an echo of mystery behind her words. What was her story? What transformations could arise from their struggles? As they stood by Jack, Sarah's thoughts raced to the next step. They had just begun this journey. How would they emerge from this? Would they find their purpose in the long nights ahead? With a newfound determination, she looked at Tom, whose brows were knitted in concern for their son. Whatever it takes, we'll be ready. And deep down, she felt that the story was far from over. The sterile smell of the hospital room clung to Sarah, wrapping around her thoughts like a thick fog. She watched, transfixed, as the machines around Jack continued their rhythmic dance of life, each beep urging forward her hope and dread. Tom stood beside her, his presence a pillar she leaned against as they faced the unknown together. Do you think he can hear us? Sarah whispered, uncertain but desperate for connection. I believe he can, Tom replied, his voice steady but quiet. He knows we're here. Minutes felt like hours. With each passing second, Sarah felt a growing resolve to be strong not just for Jack but for Tom too. Their world had been shaken upside down, but they were still here, still fighting. After some time, a soft knock drew their attention. A doctor stepped in, a warm smile on her face that momentarily eased the tension hanging in the air. Good news, folks. Jack is stable, and we'll be monitoring him closely. He is a fighter. Can we touch him? Sarah's voice barely rose above a whisper, emotions swirling like leaves caught in a tempest. Absolutely, the doctor assured them, stepping back to give them space. Sarah moved closer, her heart racing. She placed her hand gently on Jack's small arm, feeling the warmth of his skin seep into her. You're doing amazing, honey, she said, her voice trembling with emotion. We're so proud of you. Tom mirrored her movements, putting his hand over Sarah's, a silent unity in their touch. They stood like that for a while, spirits woven together with love as Jack lay quietly, his eyelids closed but them sensing he was fighting as hard as he could. Just then, a familiar face peeked through the door. It was the nurse from earlier. She had a tray in her hand. I brought you some coffee and snacks. You both need to take care of yourselves too. Sarah and Tom exchanged a grateful glance. It was a simple gesture, yet the warmth it carried filled the room like sunshine breaking through clouds. They could feel the tangible support of not just the nurse, but the whole team that was behind them. Thank you, Tom said, accepting the small cup. It really means a lot. Of course, the nurse replied, her smile lingering a moment longer before she looked toward Jack. He is lucky to have you. Can we ask you something? Sarah ventured, still in her gentle tone. How do you cope with everything you see? The nurse hesitated, her eyes darting to Jack before returning to Sarah's earnest gaze. You learn to find strength in the people you help. Every child is a reminder of why we do this, she said, her voice choked with emotion. But you find strength in the parents. You are the true warriors. Sarah felt a lump form in her throat. It was as if the nurse had peered into her heart and found the very essence of their struggle. But what if we don't feel strong enough? That feeling is natural. It's okay to not be okay, the nurse responded softly. Sharing, connecting, and allowing yourselves to feel it all makes a difference. You're not alone in this. Sarah swallowed hard, the nurse's words sinking in. Maybe joining that support group was the answer, a lifeline tethered to others who understood. She glanced at Tom, seeing the shadows of fatigue beneath his eyes, the weight of worry etched on his face. His hand squeezed hers, grounding her. We'll do it together, he assured her. As the nurse turned to leave, she paused. When you're ready, you can find me anytime. I'm just down the hall. And with a soft smile, she slipped out, leaving a sense of camaraderie in the air. Sarah felt a shift within her, a flicker of hope that they weren't alone in this struggle after all. What if they could rise together, not just to support Jack but to support each other, and those around them? Tom, she said suddenly, I think we should talk to that support group. We can't carry all this alone. He turned to her, brows lifting in surprise, then nodded slowly. Yeah, I think you're right. But even as determination filled the room, a distant sound broke through the air, whispered yet urgent, an alarm blaring from one of the machines. Sarah's heart leaped into her throat. Is everything okay? She called out, fear creeping back in as they rushed toward Jack. The door swung open, and the nurse was back, a look of concern carved into her features. Stay close, her voice trailed off, urgency threading through her calm demeanor. In that moment, everything felt at risk again, teetering on the edge of destiny. What would happen next? Would they be prepared to face the next challenge as a family? The alarm's piercing wail sliced through the soft hum of the hospital room, turning their world upside down once more. Sarah's heart raced as she dared to glance at Jack, whose small form lay motionless. Tom's grip tightened around her hand, a silent promise of solidarity. Stay back, please. The nurse's voice cut through their panic, firm yet calm. She maneuvered quickly around the bed, clicking buttons and flipping switches on the machine that had betrayed them with its shrill alert. What is happening? Sarah's voice shook, each word tumbling out in a rush as if she feared silence would steal Jack's chance to fight. We're just adjusting the settings, the nurse reassured them. It's likely just a response to his fluctuations. We need to keep a close eye on him. For a moment, the tension hung heavy in the air, a tightrope stretched between fear and hope. Sarah's breath came shallow, a desperate wish coursing through her to shield her son from this chaos. She focused on Jack's face, hoping to see some sign of life, a flicker in his eyes. Tom leaned closer, his voice barely a whisper as they pressed their lips to Jack's forehead. "You're strong, little buddy. We're right here," he said, his own emotions on the edge of spilling over. Then came a shift in the room. The nurse raised her hands to examine the monitor, furrowing her brow. "Come on, Jack, let us see some steady readings." Sarah felt herself choking back tears. She glanced at Tom, their eyes meeting in a surge of unspoken worries. This wasn't just a medical crisis, it felt like a test of every thread of their resolve. "Please," Sarah murmured, almost as if begging the universe. The beeping slowed, returning to its reassuring cadence. But as the immediate threat receded, a different kind of tension filled the room. What if this moment could shatter again? As if sensing their strain, the nurse turned, her tone shifting. "You both are doing an incredible job. He can feel your love. That's what keeps him fighting." Her words washed over Sarah, but they did little to calm the storm inside her. "Is there anything we can do?" The need to take action clawed at her. "Just be here. Talk to him. Touch him," the nurse advised. "He needs to feel that connection, especially now." Sarah again reached for Jack, her fingers brushing against his arm. The warmth was a comfort amid the uncertainty. "We love you, buddy. You can pull through this," she whispered, anchoring herself in a world filled with chaos. Time melted as they stayed in that space of connection, words filling the room like a blanket. They spoke of adventures, of endless games of hide-and-seek, of baking days filled with laughter and flour dust. A sudden knock broke their reverie. Another nurse popped her head in, a bright smile lighting up her face. "Just checking in. I heard some commotion. Is everything all right?" Sarah met the nurse's gaze, grateful for the presence of someone who cared. "It's just been a lot. He's stable now, I think." "That's great to hear," the new nurse replied lightly. There was a bounce in her step that seemed to bring in a fresh wave of energy. "And just remember, it's okay to ask for help, too. You're not doing this alone." Tom nodded, the exhaustion palpable in his eyes. "We're learning that the hard way." Then, a small hand stirred beneath Sarah's palm. Jack's fingers twitched, ever so slightly, and the room held its breath in anticipation. "Tom! Look!" They both leaned in closer. Jack's face scrunched, his eyelids fluttering as if he were struggling to break free from a dream. "Come on, buddy," Tom coaxed, voice thick with emotion. "You can do it. We're right here." Jack's eyes slowly opened, revealing the deep pools of blue that filled Sarah with immediate reassurance. For a split second, it felt like the world could shift on its axis and align toward hope. But just before a wave of laughter could escape Sarah's lips, a shadow of uncertainty flickered behind Jack's gaze. The joy that had begun to bloom was quickly covered by concern, drawing her breath away. "What's wrong?" Sarah whispered, searching his eyes for answers. A faint cry escaped Jack's lips, a small sound of confusion, perhaps fear. "Stay close," the nurse urged again, rushing to his side, her reassurance fading into the urgency of the moment. Sarah's heart sank. What lay ahead now? Would this moment reveal something deeper about their journey? Just as the air thickened with questions and dread, Jack's gaze locked onto Sarah's, as if searching for an answer. In that gaze, she saw both vulnerability and strength, a duality that captured every essence of their fight. Here they stood, teetering between hope and despair. In that moment, Sarah knew they were at yet another crossroads. Would they find the strength to push through? Or was this just the beginning of another struggle? The answer loomed on the horizon, waiting to unfold. Sarah's heart stumbled over her own rhythm, caught between the overwhelming fear and flickering hope as Jack's eyes searched for clarity. She leaned closer, cradling her words like fragile glass. "It's okay, honey. We're right here, your mom and your dad." Tom's voice, thick with emotion, floated like a lifeline through the storm. "You're safe with us, buddy. Just keep fighting. We believe in you." The words filled the air with warmth, igniting the connection they shared. Jack flinched, but his gaze intensified, as if he were trying to understand the swirling world around him. The nurse moved with practiced grace, checking monitors while casting an encouraging glance at Jack. "He's responding," she said softly. "That's a good sign." A collective sigh slipped from both Sarah and Tom as they took in that tiny glimmer of hope. "Jack, can you squeeze my hand?" Sarah urged gently, holding her breath as she extended her fingers towards him. For a moment that felt like an eternity, nothing happened. Then, suddenly, Jack's small fingers curled around hers, sending waves of warmth crashing over her. "See?" Tom grinned, feeling his own heart swell with pride and relief. "You're so strong. Just like your mom." Jack blinked slowly, as if the words were weaving through a fog. The little squeeze felt monumental, a shared miracle in a chaotic world. "Let us keep talking to him," Sarah suggested, her voice firm as she leaned back and looked into his eyes. They filled with tears, realizing how badly they needed this moment of connection. "Remember that game we play?" Tom chimed in. "What's our favorite? The one with the dinosaurs?" "Dinorama." Jack barely managed a weak smile, but even that small flicker fed the fire of determination burning in Sarah's chest. "Yes. And the T-Rex who loves to catch balloons." With each shared laugh and memory, the room filled with an energy that brushed back the shadows gently curling at the corners. After what felt like hours, Jack's eyes sparkled briefly again. "Mama Dada?" he whispered, voice fragile yet filled with undeniable strength. Each familiar nickname wrapped around their hearts, filling the void that had been so heavy before. "Yes, baby. It's us. We're right here." "You're not alone," Sarah exclaimed, her heart dancing on the edges of joy. "Let us take it step by step," the nurse interjected softly, her presence a reassuring balm. "Just keep talking to him. Let him know he is safe." As they settled back into the moment, Sarah watched Jack's face, searching for signs of recovery. There were no promises, but this connection was undeniable. It was the linchpin that could pull their lives from the depths of despair. Hours slipped by slowly but surely, with sighs of relief replacing the tension in the air. Each monitored beep now felt like heartbeats blending into the background, a steady reminder of Jack's strength. Finally, after an uncertain eternity, the door swung open again, and the doctor appeared with a purposeful expression. "I wanted to give an update. Jack is stabilizing. His vitals have improved. We can expect a slow but steady recovery." Tension melted from Sarah's shoulders, and for the first time in what felt like weeks, she allowed herself to exhale. They were breathing the same air of hope. "Can we see him again?" Tom asked urgently. "Of course," the doctor replied, leading them into the recovery area where Jack lay, now surrounded by more equipment but exuding a sense of peace. "Hey, champ," Tom called softly, stepping forward. "See? We're not going anywhere." Jack's eyelids fluttered again, slowly revealing those brilliant blue eyes that shined with a new resilience. Maybe this challenge was only a chapter in their journey. Maybe the shared strength would carry them through. As Sarah gently brushed Jack's forehead, joy bubbled up inside her. They had faced the edge of a terrifying abyss, and they were still here, together, hearts intertwined in the spirit of the fight. "Let us keep moving forward, shall we?" Sarah whispered, feeling renewed determination pulse through her veins, not just for Jack but for the path ahead. There would be challenges, nights of uncertainty awaited them. But side by side they would face them all, and as they shared more stories, the sun lowered on the horizon outside, casting golden light into the room. It felt like a new beginning. A promise of healing hung in the air, a promise that reflected not just Jack's fight but their transformation. Here, amidst the machines and medications, love routed through like lifeblood, stitching together the very fibers of their family. A legacy forged in challenges, filled with compassion and unwavering support, was what mattered most. Days turned to weeks, and together they would walk this hard road, finding meaning and purpose in every breath, every heartbeat. The world may throw storms at them, but as a family, they had learned to navigate the tumultuous seas. They were stronger. They were whole, and in that truth, they discovered the greatest transformation of all. Now is the time to make a difference. You need to subscribe now to catch more exclusive stories that inspire and elevate you. Leave a like now to fuel this journey, because it truly makes a difference to shine brighter. Comment below, sharing your reactions and feelings about this ending. Your perspective matters. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness hope through transformation. Only true fans know how important your support is for us to keep creating.